Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. The Phillies get swept by the Mets. It was a miserable effort, top to bottom in New York. And my question is, how do you still believe in this baseball team? We try and figure out if there's any reason to on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic doing sports talk radio here in Philadelphia for over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for the past 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, if you're checking us out in podcast form. You can get Locked On Phillies wherever you get your podcast. Check us out on YouTube as well. If you want to watch the show, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, all of that great stuff. When you subscribe, it'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted. It's free and easy to subscribe to Locked On Phillies, and it'll help you keep up to date on all the latest Phillies news and information from us here at Locked On Phillies. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. The Phils get swept. It was just a miserable top-to-bottom effort in this series in general. They get shut out last night, 6-0, by a guy making his 3rd career MLB start. And Nolan McLean had some good stuff, right? He has some good stuff. But at the same time, just a ridiculous lack of fire from the Philadelphia Phillies in this series. We're going to talk about it and discuss how are you expected to believe in this team still? Because I'm running out of reasons quickly. Our second segment is going to be really interesting, I think. Jayson Stark, Hall of Fame baseball writer, came on our airwaves at 97.5 The Fanatic and talked about something with the matchup with the Mets that kind of makes sense, but is also a kind of out there theory. We'll talk about why you should trust Jayson Stark and also what that theory is. And the Phillies have no day off this week. They're going to be taking on the Braves tonight back at Citizens Bank Park. A huge bounce back spot for multiple reasons. So we'll look into that. But I don't know. I'm past the point of anger with this baseball team in this series, right? I can't sit here and yell into this microphone again today because they don't deserve that. They don't deserve the ire that I would give them because they did not show any type of fire themselves up there in New York. The Phillies showed up and got dominated 3 nights in a row and then went home with their tail between their legs. They're owned by the New York Mets, and it was a really, really embarrassing series, right? As fans, I'd be shocked if anybody's walking around wearing Philadelphia Phillies gear today, anywhere in the city of Philadelphia. Maybe Eagles gear because football season's starting in less than a week. But no, this baseball team just had about as bad of a series as I can remember in as big of a moment as they've been in all season. And for a lot of people, that spells the end, right? We were getting texts left and right on the morning show over on the radio side this morning, hearing from people, hearing from fans, saying, it's over. This is the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I'm done watching this team. I'm done believing in this team. I'm done rooting for this team. And while I don't buy that, right? If you followed the team this far, you're going to continue to maybe you'll watch less, maybe you'll care less, but you'll still watch the game. So I don't believe that anybody's actually, I'm never watching another Phillies game again in the 2025 season. No, if you come this far, you're going to keep going. But the sentiment is the important part. Is there a reason to believe this baseball team is going to win anything? And when I say win anything, I mean National League pennant, World Series. There's still a chance that they win the division, absolutely. There's a probability that they win the division. If you trust Vegas, if you trust history, if you trust the numbers. But man, everything the Phillies just did in New York was against the numbers, right? All the matchups that they should win, they didn't. All the games that they had chances in, they didn't take advantage of. The team that they were favored against in the series, they got swept by. It was a mess. And after that, you question everything. Now, some people have been throughout the year questioning everything. This lineup that completely was dormant in that series against the Mets. 3 in game 1, 5 in game 2, 0 in game 3. 8 total runs in a series where, well, you gave up, 13, then 6. That's already 19. And then you gave up 6 again last night. So call it 25 runs for the opposition to your 8. You almost got tripled up. You did get tripled up. That's crazy. To have that type of lackluster performance against that Mets team is embarrassing. And there were bad at-bats up and down the lineup last night. There was a point in the 6th inning where the Phillies had more swings where they had accidentally thrown their bat than they had hits. And ain't that just the story of everything? So why would you still believe in this team? Why would you look at them and say, it doesn't matter. Biggest division rival series of the year so far. You go in, you look completely overmatched, much less, or I guess much more. You look completely disinterested in fighting back against that Mets team. What do you want me to say at this point? If they're not going to fight for it, why should I? Why should you as a fan of this team, right? I'm not telling you to give up because I'm going to counter what I'm saying in a second. But if you're waking up this morning saying, forget this baseball team, I'm out, I'm over it, they are who we thought they were, they're not going to win anything, I might as well cut my losses now and move on with the rest of my summer and fall. Not worry about, what could happen in Red October, because you've just seen it. They're going to see the limelight and they're going to shy away from it, right? That is what people are waking up in Philadelphia feeling like today. And that is a rightful feeling. Now, let me tell you why it might be wrong. Because the Philadelphia Phillies have had struggles against other teams in the past that they could not beat. The Marlins, a very good recent example. Now, that team didn't win anything, that Marlins team. The Phillies had trouble against the Marlins and then went on to make near postseason pushes or postseason and World Series push. Then, of course, they started to figure out how to beat that team, which it was dumbfounding that they took that long to figure it out. But some teams just have your number. But the problem is when the team that has your number is the team that is your closest competitor for the division title, and if the season ended today, your first-round postseason matchup, might as well call the season. Now, there's a lot that could still change. Here's the point where rational Connor comes out, right? Because I'm as upset as you are. I mean, Taijuan Walker did not get the job done last night. The Phillies' defensive alignment was ridiculous. I don't know who's setting that up. Just play straight up in the infield, for the love of God. It should not be that difficult. Shortstop plays at shortstop. Second base plays at second base. You play even. Double play, pinch a little bit. Infield in, even. It's not that hard, folks. But the Phillies made it so much harder than it needed to be up in New York. But we still have a month's worth of baseball left. A lot can change. All right? The Mets have not played anyone else well. There's a chance that they just continue to collapse. And you shouldn't be sitting here saying, well, hopefully the Mets collapse because we're not going to win enough games to take care of business. No, that's letting someone else do your dirty work for you. And that feels, I don't want to say cowardly, but that's not the mentality that I want this team to have, hoping that something else happens. You know what that mentality is? That's pointing out the parabolic mic in center field and stopping the game for 10 minutes and hoping that that helps you see the pitches better, right? That's pointing to something else rather than yourself. No, you should take care of business yourself if you're the Philadelphia Phillies. And maybe they will. They are still a baseball team that has one of the best records in the sport. They are still leading their division by 4 games, 3 with the tiebreaker in favor of the Mets, but still. They're still a team that has a chance at getting one of the top 2 seeds in a first-round bye, and they're still a team with a chance to win the World Series. If you look at realism, right? Logic. But sometimes sports doesn't exist on the logical plane. Sometimes you just know, right? You see a line on a game from Vegas, or like our friends over at FanDuel will set a line. Or you hear somebody talking and you say, well, there's no way that team beats that team. You know what I think back to? I think back to the undefeated New England Patriots taking on the wild card team New York Giants and losing their perfect season to that team led by Eli Manning and Tom Coughlin's defense. If you're not a football person, it's probably the biggest upset in the history of the sport, at least at the NFL level. And seeing that happen, no one was saying, oh, well, the Patriots might have a tough time with this Giants team. All the numbers, all the logic, everything was telling you the undefeated team was going to beat the wild card team. And they didn't. And sometimes you just get that gut feeling where it's just like, this is not going to go their way because matchup, because of feel, because of mentality, because of desire. any of those things. So anyone who's saying, oh, the Phillies are still a good baseball team, absolutely correct. And would logic tell you that they're going to continue to win and they're going to bounce back from this? Sure. When they got swept by the Mets in Citi Field earlier this year, they followed it up with 5 straight series wins, including a sweep. Not the Mets. No, I'm talking about the Phillies did that. So they bounced back, but at what cost, right? If you still match up with the Mets in the postseason, I don't think you win that series. And I don't know what I could see that changes that. Unless you handle them at the bank later on this month, or well, in September, when you play them for 4, and then you get them in a wild card series where all 3 games are at Citizens Bank Park. Other than that scenario, I don't think you have a prayer against them in the postseason. And if you don't against them, then why logically would you have a prayer against better teams in the National League standings when it comes to the playoff picture? There's a lot of stuff going against the Phillies off those 3 games. There is one thing. It is 3 games. They have played other great teams in the National League and American League well. And maybe it's just they can't play in that building, which is still unacceptable. But for where we sit today, Phil's taking on the Braves later on tonight. Series against the Mets over, mercifully. Maybe it gives you faith that, okay, things will be different because they're just not playing in that building against that team. But that doesn't calm down all the concerns that we got from this series. The lineup disappearing at a big spot, the starting pitching not getting the job done, the bullpen getting absolutely torched in a couple spots where the Phillies really needed their bullpen to come through. Rob Thompson making questionable managerial decisions, the defense being suspect. It looked like the pressure of the moment got to the Philadelphia Phillies. And that pressure doesn't just exist in Queens. That pressure exists everywhere when it comes to October, including your home ballpark. So if they're not ready for that moment, let us know now. We could save ourselves some time. Now, in past years, they have not looked ready for the moment. Think about 2022, and then they go on the run. So baseball's weird. We hated that 2022 team. We did. How could you ever even root for these guys? They're unlikable. I had that conversation many times on the radio. And then they go to the World Series and they become this beloved team. Winning solves everything. And the Phillies can still win. But can they win it all? If you've lost faith and you don't believe in this team anymore today, I'm not going to try and drag you back to the light. Now, if we get new information with them going on some runs later on in the season, winning some games, beating some good opponents, maybe we get back. But today, I can't get you there, folks. And I'm sorry if you tuned in here for positivity and the can-do attitude that I normally bring. This team's taking that away from me right now. Maybe they can earn it back over this series against the Braves this weekend. But coming up next, one more thing on the Mets series before we burn the tapes and move on from that forever. Do they have a tell? Do they know something about the Philadelphia Phillies that other teams do not? An interesting theory from a very reliable source comes your way as we continue Locked On Phillies. All right, let's go ahead and talk about upside because this is a great opportunity and you really don't have to do anything. Are you still paying full price for gas? I'd imagine most of you are. Well, stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the Upside app. It's free in the App Store or Google Play Store right now and start earning cash at the pump today. You can use my limited time promo code SEASON, SEASON, and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, it sounds too good to be true, right? What? You're just going to get free money for buying the gas you're already buying? But no, it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can be that person too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. So don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app using my limited time promo code SEASON, SEASON, for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code SEASON. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. That's upside.com. All right. I also want to talk to you about a cool survey that we're doing here for Locked On, right? And this is a chance for you to make some money and also tell us what you think. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you very much for helping us out. No thanks to the Phillies for helping us out because they did not get it done against the Mets. And it's completely their fault. It's not on the bad umpiring because there was bad umpiring in the series. It's not on the parabolic microphones. No, screw that. I'm not here to make excuses for this team. But somebody else did. And it's somebody that I really, really trust and is not someone that's going to blame the umpire or anything that's illogical. This is not a conspiracy theory, folks. This is a quasi-report from one of the Major League Baseball insiders. Jayson Stark was on our airwaves at 97.5 The Fanatic yesterday. And he was asked about the Phillies' issues with the Mets. And he brought up a wild theory. And he is not some guy that you're going to see on the History Channel talking about like ancient aliens and stuff like that. Like the dude with the big hair that you've seen in the memes if you're old enough like me and you remember Internet 1.0. But anyway, I digress. This is legitimate stuff if you hear from Jayson Stark. He doesn't just throw out thoughts like this willy-nilly. He's a polished reporter. And he believes that the Mets have tells on the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen. Now, what its tells mean, like what exactly does that entail? I don't know. Is it tipping of pitches? Is it how they call their pitches? Is it anything like that? It could be any of this. But Jayson Stark brought up numbers for guys like Jose Alvarado, guy like Jeff Hoffman, Carlos Estevez, even Joan Duran, who was touched up in Game 2 of this series, gave up 4 straight hits, something that seemed impossible for him to do just a week ago. And he's like, hey, the numbers, basically, Jayson Stark's point was that they're ridiculously high, anomalistically high. This is not normal for a team to just own guys like that. It can't be that all of these guys are mentally collapsing all at the same time. That doesn't happen. And Bryce Harper alluded to it, as Jayson Stark mentioned in the soundbite that we had over on the radio side. Bryce Harper has alluded to it with Christopher Sanchez starting Game 1 of this series. So it's not just the relievers, it's the starters. And when you look at the numbers, it's uncanny. The yearly numbers for Philadelphia Phillies relievers and starters versus their numbers against the Mets. Now, am I saying the Mets are cheating? Absolutely not. I hope they are, and I hope they get banned from baseball because I hate the Mets. But I'm not saying that, right? It's not they're doing something illegal and the Phillies should have won those games. No, this is not sour grapes. This is the opposite. I'm upset with the Phillies because if they've got something that they've picked up from the Phillies that is helping them evaluate what the pitchers are going to throw and when and allowing them to have this type of performance, that's organizational failure by the Philadelphia Phillies. Somebody needs to have picked this up by now on our side and said, hey, this is why they're crushing you. Fix it. Do not do X, Y, Z anymore because you are giving away your plan. That would be just negligible to the nth degree if that's the case for the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, this is just a theory. There is nothing specifically reported about the Mets have this, the Mets have that, they're tipping pitches, and the Mets are picking up on it. And the other thing that's super weird, I get it, right? Divisional teams, you play them 13 times a year. Other teams in baseball, if they're American League, you'll play them for 1 series. If they're National League, you'll play them for 2 series, home and away. So you see the teams in your division a lot more. But it's not to the point where, like, film doesn't exist. If the just first American League team that comes to mind, the Baltimore Orioles, were to roll into Citizens Bank Park or welcome the Phillies to Camden Yards, they would look at video of teams that have had success against the Philadelphia Phillies. They prepare, right? This ain't rinky-dink Little League. But nobody else seemed to pick it up. So if the Mets have tells, how is it just the Mets? How are they the only team that have solved this juggernaut that was the Phillies offense before they kind of took care of it? And maybe, I don't know, did they get it from Arizona in 2023? This is where we get into the whole strings of yarn on a board trying to connect dots that aren't there. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds. But when Jayson Stark, Hall of Fame baseball writer, enshrined in Cooperstown for his work, is talking about the Mets have tells on the Phillies. and saying that in pretty certain terms, you better bet there's something weird going on there. And again, I'm not blaming the Mets. No, I'm blaming the Phillies for not having their ducks in a row. We had the issue with Jesus Luzardo tipping pitches earlier this year, and it took them a while to figure that out. Like, this team may just be dropping the ball in some of the biggest spots. And if the Mets have the tells on the Phillies, I know I just talked about how no other team has it, it seems like, or they don't have it to the level of the Mets. It's only a matter of time till other teams figure it out too. If there's something that needs to change operationally or anything like that, it needs to happen now. That should be the scariest thing for the Phillies. Not that, oh, you struck out. That's baseball. Not that, oh, the moment was too big for you. That's something where you just got to toughen up. Be a professional ball player. Like, chest up and be ready to go when you play these big games. But if they have a tell and the Phillies haven't figured it out yet that they have it, that's just like, at that point, organizational failure, as I said. I prefer not to live in that world, but we'll see when the Phillies play the Mets next. The good news is I don't think the Braves have it. In fact, I think it's the complete opposite. I think the Phillies feel pretty darn confident that they can continue to beat this Braves team. We saw it in 22. We saw it in 23. What the Mets are now to the Phillies have been to the Braves. So you should feel pretty confident they can bounce back, right? Well, you better. Because if they don't come out and play well this series, I'm going to tell you what that means coming up next, and it is way worse than getting swept by the Mets. You might say, Connor, what's worse than that? Trust me, there are other things out there that are worse than that. We'll talk about it as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. All right, let's talk about game time, though. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person. But actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees. It takes all the fun out of it, and that's why I use GameTime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. GameTime's fast, easy, and backed by GameTime Guarantee. You're always getting 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. You got Phils, Braves at Citizens Bank Park. So if you're in the Philadelphia area, you want to go, and maybe you just want to go and boo the Phillies after their performance against the Mets. Perfect. I don't care why you buy the tickets. I just care that if you buy the tickets, you go to Game Time because you're going to get the best deal. They play the Braves for 4 here over the weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You probably got Monday off. It's a great weekend to spend it down at the ballpark. You don't even have to watch the game if you don't want to. Just eat hot dogs and enjoy the nice weather because God knows the Phillies haven't been putting a lot out on the field to be excited about lately. But Game Time always puts something out to be excited about because they got the best deals, best process, and they're your number one place. Not just for baseball tickets, football, hockey, basketball, all of that stuff. Concerts, comedy, theater, they do it all. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll even get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. It's that simple. So why is this series against the Braves so big? Momentum. Great answer, right? 10 out of 10 answer, hypothetical podcast listener. But it's not just the momentum of we've lost 3 games, we need to win the next game. That's not the entirety. That's part of it. But the bigger story is this. Throughout the Mets series, all I've been thinking, right, because it's the same story over and over and over, game after game after game against that team. Something goes wrong, you completely collapse, you're mentally defeated. But is it just that team? That's a theory that I've floated out a couple times as we try and cope with the Phillies getting their teeth kicked in front of us. It's a theory I've heard other people float out. Maybe it's just a matchup thing. Maybe it's what we were just talking about in last segment with the tells that Jayson Stark mentioned that the Mets may have on the Phillies. Maybe it's that building, and Citi Field is just a nightmare. The overused term this week, house of horrors for the Philadelphia Phillies. Here's the thing. I would love to believe that to be the case. And logically, I can make that argument, considering how the Phillies have played against other top opponents in baseball. How many times have you heard me say that over the past 2 or 3 shows? But if you come out and you don't play well against the Braves, that all goes out the damn window. right? If I'm going to make that argument on your behalf, and I don't even really want to make an argument on behalf of the Philadelphia Phillies today because they've ticked me off so much with the way that they played or didn't play in New York. But if I'm going to make an argument, it's that maybe it's just the Mets. And if you avoid the Mets, then maybe you can make a run at this thing. Maybe you get an easy path. Maybe you get hot. All of this stuff. But if you then follow that series against the Mets up with a split series with the Braves or losing 3 out of 4 to the Braves in your own ballpark, well, then everything hits the fan. Then people are really going to be out on this team because it's going to be, oh, what? You can't beat the playoff teams. You can't beat the non-playoff teams. Who can you beat? That will be the conversation surrounding the Phillies. So this is the proof of concept of a theory that is keeping some Phillies fans' sanity holding on by a thread. If it's proven wrong, God only knows where this fan base is going to go and where I'm going to go after that. Like when I say this fan base, I'm included in that. I'm fighting to keep the faith, folks, but you heard my first segment about how can you still believe in this team? I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you. It's also not a great time to really need a win. Let's just look at the upcoming schedule because the Phils have 4 against the Atlanta Braves. Not an easy opponent. Divisional. They're now within, they're 11 games under 500, but they're still a dangerous enough team to give you some fits. Then, well, let's go ahead and start out the month of September with a matchup with the Milwaukee Brewers, who are 83-51. Follow that up with the Miami Marlins, who are 62-71, a game ahead of where the Braves are right now. Then, hey, you get to see the Mets again. Then the Royals, who are over 500. Then the Dodgers for a West Coast swing. The Diamondbacks, West Coast swing. And the Marlins again. The Twins, who are a team that sold and has not been playing very good baseball. Like, the Twins are probably your only series that you look at and say, I feel pretty good about the Phillies there. Every other one, by the numbers, I could talk to you into the Phillies losing those series, including this one they're going into against the Braves. So you need to wake up, and you need to wake up quick because you're not playing the Rockies down the stretch. You're not playing the Pirates down the stretch. I know they got swept by the Pirates earlier this year. You're not playing like these bottom feeder baseball teams in the month of September. You're playing the big boys. And if you don't have your ducks in a row, you're going to be in trouble. Also, credit to me real quick. I just like to give myself a pat on the back. I did not curse, or at least like any of the strong ones that I shouldn't say over the past 3 days. And I have been really close a lot of times. It is to go through that series and not rip off a curse word on air somewhere. Proud of myself. Trust me, I've been yelling it at my TV every night. So don't think I'm not fired up about it. But anyway, back to the matchup with the Braves. Just looking at this series, it's not going to be easy. Tonight you get Cal Quantrill and Aaron Nola. Nola, I still don't know what he is. But as a veteran guy, I don't mind him in this spot because he's been in the stopper role before the Zach Wheeler years. We used to have to turn to Aaron Nola to say, hey, we're in a skid. Your turn to step up, so maybe he'll give that to you. Then you get Bryce Elder against Ranger Suarez in game 2. Great. That's an opportunity where you can win. Elder has not had a good season. Your game's Saturday, Chris Sale. Your game Sunday, you're getting Spencer Strider. Like, you're just in a situation, or sorry, they've changed that now. Now it's going to be Hurston Waldrep, who his numbers look insane. 0.9 ERA in 30 innings pitched. But anyway, so you're not getting Strider on Sunday, so that does make it a little bit easier. But Sale is no easy task, right? You got to go get the first 2 games of this series. Like, that is a must. You have to win tonight. You have to win tomorrow. If you don't, you're not going to win this series. It's just no 2 ways about it. If you lose either of these first 2 games, I don't think the Phillies are going to win this series because I don't think this lineup is going to beat Sale. They clearly have had trouble with that style of pitcher this year, and they're not going good right now against it. And then there are other toss-ups throughout this rotation that make you unsure whether or not the Phillies can win consistently. I know I sound like I'm so down today and everything, and I do think the Phillies win tonight. And I think Nola gives us a little something, just maybe like a spark. And maybe the offense wakes up being back in the bag. I think the Braves are coming in for like just another series. Like, hey, we got nothing to lose. But the Phillies are looking at this, I believe, as a prove-it type of game against a lesser opponent in their own building. And I know we could have said that about the Mets series, but this is different because the Braves are not in the postseason race, and they have not had the spell over the Phillies that we have seen from the New York Mets the past season and a half. So I do think the Phils win tonight and bounce back simply by the focus on it. But one game is not going to wash away the sins of what you did up in New York. You need to start playing consistent baseball the rest of the way. You need to beat the Mets next time you see them. You need to get hot at the right time. And even then, it might not be enough to win in October. So, yeah, to take it back to where we started, the belief in this team right now, it is at an all-time low for where this season has been. And that is not a great place to be. Time to start earning it back. It starts tonight, 6:45, Citizens Bank Park, Phillies Braves. We'll talk tomorrow on our next episode about that game and a little bit deeper into the series, as there will still be 3 games left to play between the Phils and the Braves, a 4-game set. But that's all for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. And I will talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.